Are you ready to unleash your full potential and become unstoppable in your success and leadership?
Welcome to the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast, where we provide powerful insights and strategies for coaches, corporate leaders, and entrepreneurs. I'm Alexanne Carter.
And I'm Carol Register, and we're certified master neurocoaches who are passionate about helping you overcome your limiting beliefs and optimize your performance.
Each week, we'll be sharing actionable tips and strategies using neuroscience, from interviews with industry experts to solo episodes, to help you lead a life of power, purpose, and possibility on your own terms.
Join our community of like-minded individuals. Hit subscribe now, and let's be unleashed and unstoppable together.
Hey, leader. Welcome back to another episode of the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast. Not only is today a very special day because it is our 100th episode, we have a very, very special guest with us today, Michael Strasner, who is a mentor, a coach, and today become a good friend of mine. And I don't think he knows this, but he is sort of, I see it as the grandfather of this podcast, because it's because of him that we birthed this podcast. It was, yeah. So after being in the training with Michael and hearing him and just having to vision and the impact we want to create, I texted Carol and I said, Carol, it is now. Life is now. Today is the moment. Let's get this podcast up and running. And within 6 weeks, the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast was born. So Michael, Carol, and I are so honored to have you here today with us.
Yeah.
Just the impact you've made on my life. Oh, I'm going to try not to cry. It's just like, I just can't thank you enough. And we are so grateful and thank you to have you here for our 100th episode, because it truly wouldn't be here without you and your mentorship and your guidance. And for you taking a stand for my leadership over these last couple of years. So I met Michael when my first daughter was 10 months old. And now imagine I have 2 daughters, and Michael, you now have 2 grandchildren, and your granddaughter and my daughter are 2 months apart in age. And, you shared something a couple months ago in the training room about just your vision, right? And that's really why we're so honored to have you here today to talk into that. And not only just your vision, but now having 2 grandchildren, just the power of standing as a source of transform world, and just what you stand for, and just who you are and your way of being. And I'm excited to have you here, and for our listeners and our audience to learn more about that and really unpack when we talk about the distinctions of leadership and who we get to be and how we get to show up and being the irresistible bold leader who is unleashed and unstoppable. So thank you so much, Michael. Carol, is there anything else you want to add before we pass it over to Michael?
I love that. I would love also, Michael, to talk about how many books you've written. I know that you're a best-selling author, and Alex has gifted me with your books, and it's been really wonderful. And so, yeah, I would love to hear what your vision is, especially for leadership and what you've got going on.
Well, thank you both for having me. I'm happy to be here. I want to say that using the word grandfather in reference to me is really interesting because it's taken on a whole new meaning in the last year. So thank you for that. And it's interesting. I told my wife, we were talking about, maybe I think it was about 2 years ago. I said, so here's my declaration and prediction, because I'm going to put them both together. I believe that we are going to be grandparents within the next 2 years. And, there's a couple of possibilities of the kids. And I just have that experience and believe that's going to happen. And are you ready for that? Are you ready for somebody to be referring to you as grandma? And, so we had that whole conversation. And for me, when she asked me, not only was I ready, but I was excited about it. I didn't see it as like, oh my God, it's like now I'm old. It means I'm old or whatever. It was more like, yeah, of course, because I love being a father. And so if I love being a father, why would I not love the children of my children? And why would I not look forward to that? Because I look forward to being with my kids anytime and every time I can, and every time I get together with them. So they're an extension of my kids. And so I love being a grandfather. Now, when you said it in this reference, I went, wow, I've been in this work a long time. I did my very first leadership training back in 1986. So take a moment to connect with that thought, because I mean, it's almost 40 years.
Wow.
And, you know, I will say that when I think about my life prior to my leadership breakthrough and my leadership transformation, when I think about my life, it really seems and feels like it's a movie I saw a long time ago that I remember a lot of the lines from and the scenes from. But my life has transformed and changed so much, and not just because I've gotten older and 40 years have passed, but more because of who I'm being and how I'm showing up and what my purpose in life is. Just to give you a very small snippet. When I was in 1986, I was 21 years old. My life was about partying, like 24 hours a day, partying. What can I do today that would be risking, outrageous, and a great story to tell someday? I swear to God, this is what my friends and I used to talk about. We've got to do something outrageous. And the thing is, we saw movies like, you know, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I don't know if you guys are
I love that one.
old enough to remember. I saw Ferris and I went, oh no, the bar is high. I've got to figure out how to go beyond that. And so it wasn't about, you know, so much, you know, let's call it alcohol, drugs, things like that. It was about fun. It was about looking for joy in life, looking for thrill and adventure and excitement in life, because I wasn't happy and we weren't happy with our lives. We were like doing whatever we could to get out of this experience we were all in, which was scarcity and survival and a lot of dysfunction, you know, family dysfunction, mother and father fighting, a lack of joy, a lack of happiness, you know, and just me floundering around without a vision, without a purpose, without knowing who I want to be, what I want to do. I mean, I was 21, technically an adult, and I do mean the word technically.
Yeah.
I looked like I was 12. I think I looked like I was 12 until I was probably 30. But in so many ways, I was acting like I was 12 and very irresponsible and immature and all of that. And so my life transformed when I went to the leadership training that I went to in 1986. And I just had not just a wake-up call, but I really awakened to who I am and what I am up to in my life. And nobody told me what to be up to. It's not like there's instructions. Okay, Michael, you're 21 and here are your plans and here's the formula for your success. It was more like leadership concepts were presented to me, leadership distinctions were presented to me, and I had the opportunity through participating in these different experiences and activities and exercises to discover for myself what my vision is, what my purpose is, and what I want to do with my life. And the irony of that is I created a career. So I didn't know I was going to create a career. Like that was definitely not what I was thinking, because I started as a student. So I came as a, let's call it a customer, a student who's paying to sign up for this leadership training. And I do this leadership training and I come out of it wanting to do this work for a living. And so that's when I began my journey. And I started in 1986 and I started out as a volunteer, and I volunteered and I volunteered and I volunteered until I made myself unexpendable as a volunteer And they had no choice, but they hired me. It was like, okay, fine. Let's give the kid a shot. He looks like he's 12. Does he even have a social security number? Does he have a bank account? Can he drive? Does he have a license? I mean, I know that's how I showed up, but the thing is that I just kept volunteering, growing, learning, growing, learning, developing my not just leadership, but my communication skills, my coaching skills, my organization skills. I did adulting, the term that we all use.
Yeah.
I became an adult. I put my parachute pants in a box. I literally had parachute pants with the zippers down the side.
Remember those?
I didn't have boots. I had booties. Okay. I had white booties that went with my black parachute pants with the zippers. And I had all sorts of designer sweatshirts, and I had multiple bracelets, and I had an earring, and I had a tail, and I had blonde streaks in my hair. I looked like I was in the Brat Pack.
Sounds like an artist to me.
Yeah. Honestly, I should have been, in the Breakfast Club. I would have been perfect for the Breakfast Club. So my point is, I gave it all up, put it in a box, put it away. And I put on a button-down shirt and a tie. I got real ties and a jacket, and I just became a professional. I grew up, and I did it because I wanted to, and because I wanted to make a difference in the world. And you can't really make a difference in the world if people don't respect you. Mm-hmm. And so nobody respected me. I mean, I was at like 21. Oh, this guy's commanding respect. No, I'm the guy to go to if you want to have fun or do something that could potentially be dangerous, but not go to this guy if you want to make grow in your life, or you want to have a breakthrough in your life, or you want to, achieve something extraordinary in your life. No, I was not that guy. But
I actually love that you're addressing this. If you don't mind me interrupting, I really love this, because one of the things that happens in careers, and particularly in coaching, that I see is you have to be this before you can teach it. But then how do you ever get started? And so you're talking about taking that opportunity and getting started. So I absolutely love this and appreciate this.
And I'm curious to know, like, do you remember the shift, right? Like, was there something that shifted internally in you? Because that's the other thing too. What I want is, like, we have choices to make, right? And to really not just make a decision, but actually lean into that choice to then put all those things in the boxes, like that really takes commitment. So I'm curious to know, like, underneath, where was the shift? Because, and we recorded an episode a couple of weeks ago about like being fully committed versus just like declaring something or saying something, versus like fully going all in, being committed, and talking about the internal shift that happens for us. So I'm curious to know, was there a particular moment for you where that happened, or was it more of a gradual thing?
Well, absolutely. Yes. And yes. So the answer is both. So one, me listening to the coaching I was being given, and through listening to it, which is different than agreeing. I wasn't sitting there going, yeah, that's right. That's agreeing. Or I don't agree with that, or that's wrong. It wasn't about me evaluating the coaching. It was about me listening. Mm-hmm. And the coaching was questions. Take a look at your life and how you're living it right now. I mean, I'm just making up a general question, but that would be an example of a question. And so I would sit there as a participant, or I would do something as a participant in the workshop where I would express what that looked like for me. So how am I living my life right now? And being honest and being authentic about how I'm living my life right now. Next question. If you make no changes and you continue to be and continue to do exactly what you're doing now, what will happen in the future? Ready, go. Okay, so if I don't make any changes, this is what my life is going to be like. So it's me being honest, me being authentic, me telling the truth to myself about how I'm living my life. And then the next question might be, so what if you were to shift or break through into a different way of being or in a different mindset or a different attitude or a different behavior, what would that look like? Okay, I want to grow up. Why do I want to grow up? Well, I want to grow up because I want to have power in my life so that I can create financial abundance. I want to have power in my life so that I can either be somebody that is hired into a job or into a role or into a career, get that opportunity, have my foot in the door through my power, then be promoted or have opportunities for growth within the company, within the organization, because I'm excelling in my career. Because people who are powerful, people who are mature, people who are responsible, people who are hungry to be successful are the people that generate promotions, higher compensation, new opportunities, people from other companies coming to give me opportunities to hire me out, and so on and so forth. My point is that it was me painting the picture, taking the coaching and absorbing it. Look, everybody knows that you should exercise and eat healthy. Nobody in the world who has an iPhone or eyes and ears and the ability to comprehend their life situation is out of touch with what are healthy choices and what are non-healthy choices. The question is, are you willing to give up the behavior that doesn't work? Are you willing to give up the habits you have that are dysfunctional, unhealthy, self-sabotaging, and transform, shift, breakthrough, and take on something else? And so it was a process of me telling the truth, being honest, being authentic about how I'm living my life, then getting out of that and looking at, well, what do I want? What life do I want? What results do I want? What's the experience I want in life? Okay, well, how am I going to get there? Because I can't just want it. What do I need to shift within me today, right now, to bridge this gap from where I am to where I want to be? And then it's beginning. So like you said, and my answer to you was yes and yes. So the second part is transformation is an inside job first.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it externally manifests itself by my consistency, my rigor, my discipline, my commitment, which shows up every single day. If you go to the gym once a month, what's that going to do for your physical health? If you decide to eat healthy once a month, I mean, come on, you can't go to the gym. Do you know how many people have a gym membership and don't go to the gym? They've got an awesome gym membership and they can tell you what all of the amenities are of the gym they never go to. So what? You can't just have a gym. You got to go to the gym. And when you go to the gym, what are you going to do? Are you going to pose? What are you going to be sitting by the food, the drink bar, posing in the mirror because you're looking for Mr. or Mrs. Right? Come on. Time to work at the gym. Get in there. Get on the treadmill. Pump the iron. Burn the calories. Get that heart going so that you can then have a cheat day and have a pizza. But your days can't be pizza 24 hours a day. Anyway. So
you bring up something so important. I teach a principle of wealth called the Pareto principle, which I know most people are familiar with, the 80-20 rule or 80-20 law. And one of the ways that I teach it is that let's take 20% of our activities to produce 80% of our results. So in this context, I think you bring up something so powerful and so important, because we also teach with the neuroplasticity that we have a 67-day window for rewiring. And the point that I really want to draw out here for our listeners is that it's the small results small actions do bring big results, and it's with consistency. So I think that example of once a month in the gym is very powerful. But if I'm doing a small, consistent change every single day of I'm going to choose to think this way, I'm going to start to believe in myself today in this way, and I'm going to take this action with it. I think that's so important, the consistency and the small changes together.
And I was just going to say,
Go
the
ahead.
other thing too, Michael, is, we talk about decide in advance. And that's what you decided in advance. Here's the vision. And that's, we always lean into like the power of making that decision. Make a decision, and then commit to the actions that you get to take to then create that result. And so I just want to go back because sounds like that was really the click, and it was then the moment and now the continuous work that you committed to help you experience this transformation and what you've created in the world today.
What I saw, okay, so I'm going to tell you something that I don't think I've ever told you, Alex, but in any of the trainings or work we've ever done, but I'm going to tell you something. I don't know how, I don't know why, but when I was a kid, I used to see what was happening in the world, and I was very aware. So I grew up in Boston, and part of growing up in Boston, which is very, very normal and cultural, is there is a lot of conversation about politics, and it's all the time. Like, I'm not from Texas, even though I live in Texas. And one of the Southern expressions is you don't talk about sex, you don't talk about politics, and you don't talk about religion. We talked about all of it. Okay. So I grew up where we always talked about politics, but it wasn't about politics and whether you're a Democrat or a liberal or a conservative or a Republican. We talked about the world. What is happening in the world, and what would you do about it if you could make a difference? And so since I was little, as early as I can remember, I've always been aware of what's happening in the world and not just sensitive to it, but had this deep desire to contribute and want to make a difference. And I was inspired by Martin Luther King, and I was inspired by, people like John F. Kennedy, and I was inspired by Gandhi, and I was inspired by, Bob Marley, and I was inspired by John Lennon and the song Imagine, which has always been my favorite song. And even in my high school yearbook, I quoted the Imagine song in my high school yearbook. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. And it was because that song touched my heart, and it was about what's possible for the world, what is possible for humanity. It's about creating a world of peace. And so that's what I wanted. But the difference is I didn't think I could ever do anything about it. And I didn't think anybody would ever listen to me. And I didn't think I could ever have any kind of leverage or authority to make any kind of a difference. And then, of course, 1986, I go to this leadership training, and I wake up and I realize, wait a minute, if it's to be, it's up to me. If not me, who? And so I've spent the last 40 years of my life directly and indirectly standing for transformation, starting with myself and my mother and my father and my brothers and sisters and my grandparents and my friends. And so it's like a rippling effect. I've transformed literally my family. I was the black sheep of my family, and I then became the Elmer's glue. I put the family back together and created such incredible connection and love and healing with my family, all because I did the leadership training and woke up and realized if it's to be, it's up to me. I mean, if I didn't do that, who knows? Maybe I would have never had a loving relationship with my dad. My dad never hugged me when I was a child. He never said, I love you when I was a child. Never. No affection, no acknowledgement. I used to ask my mom, does dad love me? And she would say, well, yes, of course he does. And I would say, well, how do you know? She would say, well, I'm your mother. I know. That was the most unsatisfying answer to the question. Oh my God, did that make no difference? But when I went to the leadership training and I got my power, claimed my power, I called my dad and I said, Dad, you and I are going to have a breakthrough in our relationship, and we are going to create a loving relationship. And basically he said, no, we're not. And I said, yes, we are. And this was like a heavyweight battle. And I ultimately got through to my father. My father grabbed me one day, hugged me, embraced me, and cried on my shoulder for almost 30 minutes, sobbing, telling me how much he loved me and how much he apologizes to me for all of those things. And my point to you is that would have never happened if I didn't have my own breakthroughs and realize that I am worthy and I am powerful and I can make a difference. And so many people don't think they can. So yes, little ways, big ways, they all matter. But it begins with the choice, and it begins with the realization of how you're living your life and what you want and what's possible and what breakthroughs and what shifts you get to have to start that process to make it real. So
Wow.
I could go on forever, as you can imagine.
I know we both have questions. One of the things you write about in your book that we learned in leadership was having a 3-word mantra, a contract with yourself, if you will. Yeah. And I would love to know if you're willing to share what yours is.
I am a worthy, honest, loving man.
Mm-hmm.
I love
yes,
that.
You are, Michael. Yeah.
Yes, you are.
I'm a worthy, honest, loving man. I felt so unlovable in my life. I felt so unworthy. I felt like I had to prove myself over and over and over and over and over again, and it was never enough, no matter what. And I was a complete BSer. I would tell people what they want to hear. I would it would never be honest. Like if you said, Michael, could you give me feedback? And let's say I didn't like you or I saw issues with you, I would never tell you the truth. I would always tell you something that I think you want to hear, thinking that your approval of me would be better than me being honest. So even if I really didn't like you, I didn't have the courage to be honest with you because I would rather you approve of me and me not like you at all than me take the risk of being honest. So I mean, my life was so, it was really a process of survival and looking good and a fear that I'm never going to be anything. I'm never going to be enough. I'm never going to be worthy of my dreams. Like my dreams were fantasies. They weren't even dreams. They were so far out there that I didn't think that they could be legitimized in my life.
So,
wow.
Michael, I want to lead in because I know, because I've been in the work with you in their training room and being able to work through what comes up, because you talked about feedback, right? And I know for me, it was a massive breakthrough because in leadership roles, in leaders, with our partners, with our family, sometimes we get to have uncomfortable and quote unquote difficult conversations, right? And feedback oftentimes tends to be that thing. So for the listener, because we know this audience, like if you're listening, I'm sure you're up against this all the time where you're like, okay, it's not serving me not being honest with this person, but yet I still want them to, I want to be liked. I want to be loved. I don't want to rock the boat. So what can you say to the listener for them to embody that confidence and lean into providing the feedback, understanding that feedback is neutral, and being able to lean into the vision, which is on the other side of you giving that feedback and standing for the person?
First thing I would say to that is that the ultimate act of generosity and giving is to be honest and tell the truth.
Wow.
Because people really know what they know, and they don't know what they don't know. As a matter of fact, right before we started this podcast today, I was having a text conversation with a friend of mine. And I didn't get my friend was listening to me. Like what he was saying in response to the things that I was saying to him were not connected or related to what I was saying. And so I decided I was going to be honest with him. and I gave him honest feedback. Now that I'm living my life as a leader, I see the value of honest feedback because I am committed to making a difference in people's lives. And given that people know what they know and they don't know what they don't know, they have blind spots. And I also believe that people deep down inside don't want to show up in a way that doesn't work. They don't, for example, they might be angry or mad or mean or judgmental, but that's not really how they want to be. It means something's going on that is unresolved. And if I'm honest with them and I let them know how they're showing up, then it gives them an opportunity to check inside, look inside, and then be honest themselves.
Yeah.
And I can actually walk them through it. So, for example, my mother, a week ago, I was talking to my mother and I gave my mother feedback. And I don't just, it's not like giving feedback and then saying, okay, bye, Mom. It's getting into the process and saying, Mom, here's how you're showing up right now in my experience of you. And then stopping and checking in with her. What are you hearing me say? Okay. So, Mom, is it true? Is that what your experience is? Okay, great. It is. So what's going on? Can you tell me what's going on? I love you. I care about you. I'm here for you. So you can do that in many different ways. I mean, obviously, if you're working with somebody, you're not necessarily going to say, I love you and I care about you. But if you feel comfortable enough to do it, my point is, whether you're saying it or not, you're walking them through that process. So when you give somebody feedback, it's not like you're a bee stinging and then you disappear. You got stung, but you don't know where the bee is. Okay. So it's not about stinging. It's about making a difference in somebody's life. When you care enough about somebody to be honest, you also get to care enough about that somebody to support them, to see it for themselves and what's possible on the other side.
Yeah.
And so it's a journey and it's a partnership. To me, that's what relationship is. Yeah. Whether it's business or personal, it's a partnership. Matter of fact, I have business clients that I started out with a 3-month contract with, 6-month contract with, and I'm still working with them years later. Some people, and I mean this kind of in a funny way, I can't get rid of them. I mean,
that's great.
I mean, think about what it takes to provide value for somebody week after week after week for multiple years, where they're investing large dollars to that relationship. Yeah. So it's not just about me stinging or poking. It's about me walking through the journey with them. And when we create that kind of connection, that kind of partnership, that kind of unity, then it's encouraging, it's reinforcing. It's not just a concept. It becomes a process and a journey where we're working on this together. And so that partnership supports that person to get to the other side. Does that make sense?
Wow, that's powerful. I love this. There's so many gold nuggets in there. I'm like, okay, wait, stop. Hold on. I need to process all this. I'll be listening again for sure. Feel like we're all receiving personal training from you right now in this, and starting with that integrity and the fact that you paint a picture that it's in, when you look at it through the lens of, again, visioning, when your vision is strong, that this is a journey together. That's so helpful. For me personally, I can think about my own sensitivity in receiving feedback. It hasn't felt neutral many times. And so I haven't wanted to give it as well. And to completely reframe the perspective and say, no, this is a journey that we're loving one another through this. It's a win-win. We're building one another up is just, again, so powerful.
Well, it is because so many people, it's not even feedback they want to give. It's criticism, it's judgment, it's I'm mad at you, I'm frustrated with you, I'm disappointed in you, I don't like you, I don't like how you're being right now. You upset me. And the thing that we get to do as people is work through our own stuff about the person that I have stuff with, so that if I'm going to give feedback to the person, then I've got to get myself to a place where it's not about me and me being mad at you, or me and me being upset with you. It's got to be about, I love you, I care about you, I'm on your team. And so I will tell you, and I've done this a million times, I'll be on the phone with my mother, something will happen, and my button will be pushed. And I will literally do the following. Mom, can you hang on a second, please? Okay, great, thank you. And I will walk away and I will breathe. Breathe. Let it go. I love my mother. I love my mother. I love my mother. Whatever I'm saying, I'll say something to release and let go and get it off me. Get it off me. So I get out of my upset or my reaction or my frustration or my judgment. Hello, I am back. Hi. Now, if a boss can do that, if a business partner can do that, if a husband can do that, a wife can do that, a mother or a father can do that, imagine. My mother used to say, Michael, count to 10 before you say something. Now, of course, I thought she was punishing me. Like I didn't get it as like, this is a gift for you. I got it as like, she's telling me to shut up. What she was really telling me to do is to breathe through my reaction so that I can make an objective point of view or choice or decision, not react, but to respond. Now, my mother was effective, by the way, in delivering the message, because she also used to say, kiss, keep it simple, stupid, emphasis on the stupid part. So my point is, she wasn't effective per se, but her intentions were good. She meant to serve me in the best way she knew how. She's just learned a lot of better ways and more effective ways. And thankfully I have. So my kids love talking to me and love being with me and love when I'm coming. I can call my daughter and I say, guess what? We're coming in 2 weeks. And my daughter doesn't go, Dad, can you hold on a second? Hi, Dad. What did you say? How are you coming? When are you coming? Why are you coming? No.
So, Michael, even on, so this is going to be a great segue, because I talked about like the relationship with your kids and the communication. A story that I had when I started in this work in my role in a senior leadership position was that my communication didn't land. Nobody understood me. No one's listening. I get really, really frustrated. But what you helped me learn is, first of all, each person has a different operating system. Therefore, communication can be received and landed differently. And it's completely opened my world. And just like, I'm so curious and excited. Like, I love this stuff now of being curious to see, how someone thinks or how communication lands for them. So I'd love to dive into this a little bit before we wrap up here today, of speaking into that a little bit, and how, as a father and now a grandfather, that really supported you in building those relationships. And what does that look like now for us with our families and our friends and our colleagues and just the people that are around us, to really open up those lines of communication. And so that we're not running around with this belief that no one's listening to me, or it's not landing, and getting frustrated versus stepping into curiosity.
Well, again, going back to the act of giving, the act of generosity, communication and being in relationship with people really is an art form. Most people are on their own agenda. We just go through life. We're just kind of on our own agenda. I'm focused on myself. I'm focused on myself. I'm focused on what I think. I'm focused on my day. I'm focused on what I'm doing. Now, when it comes to interacting with other people, I can't be focused on my agenda, my day, how things are going for me if my intention is to create intimacy, or my intention is to create connection, or my intention is to be effective at enrolling this person into a vision I have, or a product that I want to sell, or an idea that I have. So it's important to get off of me and get connected to who I'm with. Now, if I'm connected to who I'm with, then my ability to understand how that person sees the world gives me an opportunity to design how I say what I'm going to say in a way that would work for them to match up with how they view life and how they view the world. Look, if I'm talking to, as an example, someone who is analytical, well, analytical people are focused on the process. So I've got to include process in my communication. I can't just talk about feelings, emotions, bells and whistles. I mean, the analytical mindset is focused on process. They need to understand how something works. If I'm communicating to somebody who tends to be a controlling personality, their focus is on results. So results people are urgent. So the pace of my communication needs to be urgent, because controlling style people are always in a time crunch. What's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? Okay. So I've got to be quicker, faster. It's the velocity of the communication that will captivate a controlling style person. Supporting style people tend to be emotional, tend to be softer, tend to be sentimental, tend to be empathetic. So patience is required. Patience. They don't communicate typically fast with their velocity. So patience, softness, sensitivity, emotional connectivity works. If you're talking to a promoting style person, promoting style people tend to be high energy, excited, passionate. So they're into the sunset and they're into the rainbow. Oh my God. They every time look at a rainbow, it's like the first time they ever saw it. So you can't say, hey, look at the rainbow to a promoter. You can't say, would you like to go to Hawaii to a promoter? I mean, they might want to go to Hawaii, but not with you. Okay. So if you want to ask a promoter to go to Hawaii, you've got to talk to a promoter like a promoter would talk. Hey, I have a great idea. Really? What's that? How would you like to go to Hawaii? Hawaii? Yeah, they have waterfalls and rainbows and beaches and palm trees. I'm in. Sign me up. Let's go. So it's a matter of understanding the different type of people. Some people are introverted. So being softer, being sensitive, pacing your communication, being more neutral will establish the connection and the trust. Then you have extroverted people. You know, extroverts are urgent, rapid, excitable, high energy, intense. Those are the people that want to go to the drama. They want to see the drama. You know, what kind of drama is happening? They want to see that movie, The Town. I don't know if you ever saw The Town. You know, it's like, it's a Boston-based movie with gangsters and Matt Damon and Ben Affleck and Fenway Park. And, you know, it's, you know, drama, excitement. Yeah. They don't want to see, suspense. They don't want to see, you know, the movie, the Panda 5. They're not going to Panda 5. They're not going to Panda 5.
Well,
No.
this, I mean, and because having been in the work with you, Michael, like it's really landed. And I realized, you know, where it was is I made the story up in my head. And yes, it was all about me. And it was about my communication not landing versus really being curious and asking more questions. And when you step into that, just even the relationship that you form and understanding, I mean, even when Carol, like work, like even in a partnership, right, with Carol and I, you know, as podcast goes, right, it's learning to flex and be curious and sort of interrupting the automaticness of like, it's just not working versus just be curious. And flex, get to know the other person, and then show up in a way that, the communication lands for that person versus, it being very more ego and about yourself. So,
there's a lot of ways of getting to the same message. The same message is let's go to Hawaii. So, all different personalities can go to Hawaii, but what a supporting style person wants when they go to Hawaii is not the same as what an analyzing person or a controlling person or a promoting person wants. So they can all enjoy Hawaii. And the question is, how do you convey the message about let's go to Hawaii to a different personality style in a way that has them want to go, in a way that has them say yes?
It's almost like, it's one destination. There's 4 different flight paths to get there. So you're just figuring out what flight path that the person's on. So that lands. Thank you.
Their frequency.
Yeah, it's so important and helpful when you understand the operating styles and what they are and the ways that, we can tend to default to. And I think it's really important to be able to, adjust when you see that. One of my favorite things that I learned in leadership was that the goal in many ways is to be a style flexor. And I'm in my 61st year of life now, and I love that because, when we put together our years of experience, that makes the most sense to me. But I'd love for you to speak into that. What does being a style flexor look like?
Well, it looks like my commitment to growing and learning and flexing into ways of being and actions and behaviors that are not only challenging for me, but valuable for me. So I over my 38 some odd years of being in this work, I've practiced all 4 personality styles, including my own strengths. But one of the other aspects is to eliminate the downsides of all the styles. Because if you take any of those styles, you also have downsides. Controllers, promoters, supporters, analyzers all have upside to their style, but they also have a downside. Analyzers procrastinate too much, are indecisive. Supporters are wishy-washy and also victim-y and sacrificing always. They put themselves last. Promoters tend to be self-focused and they don't follow through. They don't execute. They're dreamers that don't do what they say they're going to do. And controllers tend to be steamrollers and they'll get results, but they'll have some dead bodies in the wake. And look at that as collateral damage to my success, so the lack of empathy, the lack of compassion along the way. So the point is we want to eliminate all the downsides of our own style, but then what we want to do is flex into the other personality styles as to what the value would be. So for a promoter to develop the analytical side is to develop the piece of them that is organized, structured, detailed, rigorous, and follows through. For analyzers to step into being promoters is to really step into and flex into being fun, like letting go of having to know everything and understand everything, but to be fun, to be spontaneous, to stop and look at the sunset, even though you've seen it before, and appreciate it as if you've never seen it and it's the first time. Like to allow yourself to have that experience. Be joyful, be fun, be playful. For controllers to flex into being patient and loving and vulnerable and emotionally available like a supporter, so that not everybody's intimidated by them, but that they also are empathetic, compassionate, and the wind beneath people's wings. And for supporters to flex into being a controller, to be decisive, to take charge, to go first, to be worthy, to be confident, to ask for what they want, that's incredibly valuable. So it's understanding what the value is in the other styles, and then my willingness to step into it, to commit to it, and to work on developing it. That's how you do it.
I love that. I love that. What we focus on grows, right? I love that.
as we're wrapping up here today, Michael, is there any final words, any final something about for the listener to step into their next level of leadership and something that they can walk away with, like even an action step they invite them to take so that they can get to that next level?
Well, one action step is people could enroll into HCL. If they haven't done HCL, look up HCL. You know what HCL is, and you could certainly post that information for people. They can also buy either one or both of my books. I have 2 books that I've written. One is called Living on the Skinny Branches. And that's really about my own personal transformation, going from a loser and a person with low expectations to somebody who's created extraordinary results in their life. And essentially, if I can do it, anybody can do it. So I break it down into simple steps that you can take to create that for yourself. And the second book is called Mastering Leadership. And the Mastering Leadership book is basically, now that I have created these results and created these breakthroughs, here's what I'm causing, here's what I'm creating, and here's what you can cause, and here's what you can create in your life as a leader who is committed to your vision and committed to creating extraordinary results. And then I'll leave you with this. Life is about giving and giving and giving until you have nothing left to give. And then it's about giving and giving and giving. People who win in life are giving and known as givers. And I invite everybody to choose to give and let go and give up the selfishness, the narcissism, the taking ways. Your life is not a dress rehearsal. So this is an opportunity for you to make that change, and you can start today.
Wow.
Beautiful. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, ladies. I appreciate both of you inviting me to be on, and I appreciate the podcast. And maybe we'll do it again.
Definitely.
I'd love that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, listener, for tuning in to another episode of Unleashed Level Podcast. Thank you, Michael, so much for being here, sharing your gifts, your wisdom, and just everything. Thank you for being you and your vision and just standing for the work that you do.
Thank you for being here for our 100th episode as well. We really appreciate that and appreciate the leadership. Yes.
Awesome. Have a great day. I'll see you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast with your hosts, Alexander Carter and Carol Register.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review and subscribe.
That's all for this episode, Wildly Ambitious Leaders. See you next week.